All right, listeners, so you're ready to kind of ditch that textbook English and really start sounding like a natural, right? We get it. You're so over... Hello, how are you?
It's time to level up.
Yeah, it's time to level up.
Right.
Dive into the kind of phrases that native speakers actually use. You know, the ones that add color and personality to their conversations.
That's right. We're going way beyond basic vocabulary here.
Yeah.
This is about understanding those subtle nuances of everyday English.
Yes.
And how to use them to express yourself more effectively.
And luckily for us, you've shared some really cool source material.
Yes.
A script from an advanced English learning podcast.
That's right.
But instead of just listing out the phrases, we're going to unpack what makes them advanced and how they reveal some really interesting things about the way English speakers think.
Exactly. It's like taking a peek behind the curtain of everyday language.
I love that. Okay, so let's jump right in.
Okay.
We'll start by imagining you're waking up, you know, maybe feeling a little groggy. And instead of just saying, I need coffee, you drop, I could really use a coffee. What's the difference here?
Well, on the surface, they seem similar, but I could really use a coffee adds this layer of urgency, almost desperation,
Right.
without being overly dramatic.
Yes.
You know, it's like saying, this coffee isn't just a want, it's a need.
Right. It's like you're subtly hinting that if you don't get that caffeine fix soon, you might just short circuit.
Right.
But in a funny way, of course.
Exactly.
Exactly. And then there's the classic, I'm running on fumes. Now that's a phrase that really paints a picture.
It does.
Yeah.
It makes me think of like a beat up old car sputtering down the road about to conk out.
That's it. That's exactly it.
Right.
It's funny because it taps into this kind of shared cultural understanding of cars and, you know, their limitations, but it also subtly highlights that feeling of being totally depleted. You know, like you've used up all your energy reserves.
Absolutely.
Okay, so you've had your coffee, maybe stumbled through a few emails. Now imagine you're at work or school and someone wants to schedule a meeting. Instead of just saying, let's talk later, you hit them with, let's touch base later. Now, this is one of my favorites because it sounds so professional yet casual at the same time.
It is. And it's a great example of how advanced English speakers often use indirect language, especially in professional settings. Let's touch base later is less formal than scheduling a specific meeting, but it still shows that you're interested in connecting.
Right. It's like saying, I'm open to talking, but let's keep it flexible for now.
And that flexibility is key. It allows you to manage your time and your workload without committing to anything concrete just yet.
So it's a great way to sound approachable while still maintaining control of your schedule. I like it.
It's a subtle power move, for sure. Now, another phrase from the work section that caught my eye was, I'll pencil it in. There's something about this phrase that just feels so non-committal.
Totally. It makes me think of those old appointment books where you could just easily erase something if plans changed.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what this phrase conveys. You're acknowledging the request, but you're not carving it in stone. It's like saying, I'm willing to try to make this work, but let's not get ahead of ourselves.
So it's perfect for those situations where you want to be helpful, but also need to leave yourself some wiggle room.
Exactly. And that's something you'll notice about a lot of these advanced phrases. They allow you to navigate social situations with more finesse and diplomacy.
Okay, so we've conquered the morning and survived the workday.
Yeah.
Now it's time to unwind and maybe meet up with some friends.
Sounds like a good plan. Let's see what phrases we could find for that. From those social conversation phrases, what's the game plan? Always stands out to me. It's so casual and playful,
I know.
yet it's used all the time by native English speakers.
All the time. And it's funny how it borrows from the world of sports, even when you're just talking about, you know, what to do that evening. It's definitely more dynamic than just saying, what's the plan?
Right. It suggests this sense of strategy and excitement, you know, like you're embarking on a fun adventure together. And it really highlights how English speakers often use these metaphors from different domains
Yes.
to add color and energy to their language.
And then there's, I'm on the fence. I love this one because it uses such a vivid image to express indecision.
It's a great example of how a simple metaphor can really add depth and complexity to a statement.
Right.
Instead of just saying, I don't know,
Right.
you're conveying this sense of internal struggle, like you're weighing the options carefully.
It's like you're saying, I see both sides and I'm stuck in the middle trying to make a decision.
Exactly. And that visual imagery makes it more engaging for the listener, you know? Instead of just hearing you state your indecision, they can actually picture you teetering on that fence.
Okay, so let's say you've made a decision. You're hanging out with friends, but you're starting to feel a bit tired.
Okay.
This is where a phrase like, let's wind down, comes in handy.
Oh, I love how gentle this phrase sounds. It suggests a gradual transition from, a state of activity to a more relaxed mode.
It's like slowly turning down the volume on the day.
And it reflects this cultural value of taking time to de-stress, to unwind after a busy day.
Yes.
It's not about abruptly stopping everything, but easing into a state of rest and rejuvenation.
It's almost like acknowledging that you need time to recharge your batteries before you can fully switch off. Now I'm running out of steam. From that same section that you shared, that one really resonates with me. It perfectly captures that feeling of having depleted your energy reserves.
It does, doesn't it? It's like admitting that you've hit a wall and you need to slow down.
Sometimes I feel like we could all benefit from embracing this phrase more. It's a way to acknowledge our limits and prioritize self-care.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that it's okay to step back and take a break when you need it. And it's a great phrase to use with colleagues or friends when you need to signal that it's time to wrap things up.
Speaking of wrapping things up, let's call it a night, is a classic way to signal that the day is done.
It is. And it's often used in a communal setting.
Yes.
Implying a shared decision to, end the activity and head home. There's a sense of camaraderie in it.
I agree.
Like you're all in this together.
It's like saying, okay, team, we've had a good run, but it's time to hit the reset button and recharge for tomorrow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there's often a sense of satisfaction implied, like you've accomplished what you set out to do.
Yes.
And now it's time to relax and enjoy the rest of the evening.
Going through these phrases, it strikes me how much they reveal about our daily routines and social interactions.
It's true. They're not just about conveying information. They're about navigating social situations smoothly.
Right.
And building connections with others. And they often tap into shared cultural values and understandings.
Now, before we move on, there were a couple more phrases from the work and productivity section that I thought were really interesting.
Oh, do tell. Which ones caught your eye?
Well, one that really stood out was, let's put this on the back burner. I love how it allows you to prioritize without completely dismissing something.
It's a brilliant way to acknowledge a task's importance while also deferring it to a later time. It's like saying, we see you, task, but you're not the main course right now. We'll get to you eventually.
And it's much gentler than just saying, no, we're not doing that right now.
Exactly. It maintains a sense of collaboration and keeps the lines of communication open. Now, another phrase from that section that I find quite interesting is, that's a no-brainer.
I know, it's so satisfying to say, like you're stating the obvious in a confident and even slightly playful way.
It is.
Yeah.
And it often implies that the decision is so clear-cut that it requires no real thought. It's like saying, come on, this is easy. Even a child could figure this out.
So I imagine there are times when using it might come across as a bit arrogant, right?
That's a good point. You definitely want to be mindful of the context in your relationship with the person you're speaking to. But used appropriately, it can be a great way to express certainty and conviction.
Okay, so back burner for things we can postpone and no-brainer for the obvious choices. What else do we have from that section?
Yes. I need to wrap my head around this is another one that highlights a common experience.
Yes.
Grappling with a complex concept.
It's so relatable. It's like you're saying, give me a minute to process this information. My brain is doing somersaults trying to make sense of it all.
Exactly. And it's a great way to buy yourself some time and mental space to think things through.
Now, finally, from the work and productivity section, we have, let's call it a wrap.
This one feels very decisive.
It does.
Like you're drawing a clear line in the sand and saying, we're done here, time to move on.
It does. And it often comes with a sense of accomplishment, a shared feeling of we did it. It's a great way to boost morale and celebrate teamwork.
It's like a verbal high five. Okay, so we've covered some great phrases for wrapping up the workday.
We have.
But I'm curious, what are some phrases that can help us navigate those evening hours, especially when energy levels start to dip?
Right. And one that comes to mind is I'm running out of steam. It's a great way to express that feeling of depletion, like you've hit a wall and you need to recharge. Oh, it's so relatable. It's like saying, my battery's about to die, but in a more human, less robotic way.
Exactly. And it often implies a need for rest and rejuvenation. It's a signal to yourself and others that it's time to slow down and prioritize self-care.
It's like a gentle reminder that even the most energetic people need time to refuel,
It is. Now, you mentioned, let's call it a night earlier, which is a classic way to signal the end of the day.
Yeah, and I think what I like about that one is how it often becomes this shared decision. Like you're all agreeing to kind of collectively hit the pause button and embrace the rest.
Absolutely. There's a sense of camaraderie in it, a recognition that you've all put in the effort, and now it's time to unwind together.
Okay, so we've explored all these fantastic phrases, but I'm curious what exactly makes them advanced? What sets them apart from the more basic vocabulary we learn in textbooks?
That's a great question. One key factor is their nuance. They often convey meaning beyond just the literal words, like let's touch base later, for example. It's not just about talking, it's about a specific type of check-in, one that's brief and informal.
Right, and I'll pencil it in is more than just a simple yes. It suggests flexibility, a possibility of change.
Exactly. Another element is their idiomatic nature. These phrases aren't always grammatically straightforward, but they're packed with meaning. Running on fumes isn't something you'd typically find in a textbook.
Right, but it paints such a vivid picture and connects to a shared experience we all understand.
And I'm on the fence. That's a metaphor that adds a layer of depth to a simple statement of indecision. It brings a visual element to the conversation.
Okay, so nuance, idiomatic expressions. What else?
Well, advanced language users are also very attuned to context. These phrases can have slightly different meanings depending on the situation.
Oh, that's so true. Like, let's call it a rap. Could be the celebratory declaration after a successful project, or it could be a sigh of relief after a particularly challenging day.
Precisely, and that's where observation comes in. Pay attention to how native speakers use these phrases, the subtle shifts in tone, the accompanying body language. All of that contributes to the meaning.
So it's not just about memorizing phrases, it's about understanding their nuances, their cultural implications, their flexibility.
Exactly. It's about developing a feel for the language, a sense of how it's used in real-life situations.
So listener, I hope you're feeling inspired to start sprinkling these advanced phrases into your own conversations. Don't be afraid to experiment and have fun with it.
Yes, and remember that fluency isn't about perfection. It's about confidence and connection. The more you use these phrases, the more natural they'll become.
And who knows, you might even start noticing them pop up in conversations around you.
That's a great point. As you become more attuned to these nuances, you'll start hearing them everywhere. And that's when you know you're really starting to master the language.
It's like unlocking a secret level of communication. Well, listener, we've reached the end of our deep dive into advanced English phrases. We hope you've enjoyed the journey and learned some valuable tips for leveling up your conversation skills. Remember, the key is to keep practicing, keep experimenting, and most importantly, have fun with it.
All right. So are you ready to really level up your everyday English?
Yeah.
We're going to deep dive into 22 phrases that are going to be super useful for intermediate learners.
Right.
These aren't just like your basic hello, how are you kind of things.
Yeah.
We're going to uncover all those little nuances that are going to make you sound so natural and confident in any situation.
Yeah. It's really cool because at this level of learning, you start to move beyond just straight translation.
Exactly.
And you really begin to understand how these phrases work, in real conversations.
Totally. And we've got our source material right here.
Yeah.
And it's all about daily routines.
Okay, cool.
We're talking morning work, lunchtime, the whole 9 yards. Are you ready to get started?
Let's do it.
Okay, first up, we have rise and shine.
Oh, yeah.
You know, that classic morning greeting, rise and shine. It's a beautiful day outside. But there's more to it than just saying good morning, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely more informal than a good morning, and you'd probably use it with family or close friends.
Yeah.
Rather than, in a business meeting.
Right.
It's about kind of injecting some energy, into the morning.
It's like, let's make the most of this day. Although I've definitely heard it used sarcastically.
Oh, yeah.
Like when someone's trying to wake up a grumpy teenager.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean?
That's a great point.
Yeah.
It's like the tone of voice that you use completely changes the meaning.
Totally.
You could also use it playfully with colleagues,
Yeah.
depending on your workplace culture.
Right. So context is key.
For sure.
All right. This next phrase is one I know we can all relate to.
Okay.
I could use a coffee.
Uh-huh.
The example is, I slept late last night. I could use a coffee right now.
Yeah.
Pretty straightforward, right?
I mean, it seems simple, but it's a great example of how English speakers often understate their needs.
Oh, interesting.
It's more polite than saying, I need a coffee.
Right.
Even if you're feeling desperate.
Good. Yeah. It's like that British politeness. I'm a bit peckish when they're starving.
Right.
But back to coffee. Is there a situation where saying, I could use a coffee would be appropriate?
Well, imagine you're at a formal dinner with your boss.
Okay.
It might be better to say something like, may I have some coffee, please?
Right.
The first phrase is great for casual settings.
Yeah.
But you need to be mindful of the formality level.
It makes total sense.
Yeah.
Okay, I am guilty of using this next one far too often.
Okay.
I'm running behind schedule.
Oh, yeah.
Example, I'm running behind schedule. I need to leave now.
Uh-huh.
This phrase is all about urgency.
It is. Yeah. It's letting others know that you're aware of the time crunch.
Right.
And you're taking action. But it's important to use it sincerely, though.
Oh, you shouldn't say it if you're just taking your sweet time.
Exactly.
It's about genuinely needing to catch up.
Right. And notice how it's different from simply saying, I'm late. Running behind schedule implies that you have a plan.
Right.
And you're trying to stick to it.
Like you're acknowledging the disruption it might cause to other people.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, once you're finally ready to go, you can say, let's hit the road.
Oh, I like that one.
The example is, we need to be at work by 9 a.m. Let's hit the road. I love this one. It's so energetic.
It's a great example of an idiom.
Yes.
You're not literally hitting the road,
Right.
but you're using this vivid image to convey the idea of getting going.
Yeah.
English is full of these figurative expressions.
Yeah. Idioms can be tricky for language learners, but they really do add color to your speech.
Yeah, I think they show that you're not just translating word for word,
Right.
but you're starting to think in English,
Exactly.
which is huge.
All right, let's shift gears a little bit to the workplace or the school environment.
Okay.
I remember when I first started working,
Yeah.
I was always so nervous about using the right level of formality.
Oh, yeah.
So this next phrase is, what's on the agenda today? The example is, what's on the agenda today?
Got it.
Pretty simple, but
Yeah, this phrase is perfect for demonstrating that you're organized and proactive. It shows that you're ready to tackle the day's tasks and that you're interested in what's planned.
right.
It's a good way to start a meeting or a class.
Yeah, it's more engaging than just asking, what are we doing today?
Exactly.
You know,
Yeah.
it shows that you're taking it seriously.
Right.
And when you get assigned a task, you can confidently say,
Okay.
I'll get right on it.
Yeah.
The example given is, I'll get right on it.
Love it.
So enthusiastic.
This phrase is all about conveying reliability and willingness to take ownership.
Right.
It reassures the person who gave you the task that you're going to prioritize it and start working on it immediately.
It's like saying, I got this, no problem.
Yeah.
But what if you're already overloaded with work?
Right.
That's where this next phrase comes in.
Okay.
I'm swamped with work.
Uh-huh.
Their example is, I'm swamped with work. Again, super enthusiastic.
This one is definitely more informal,
Okay.
but it's very effective at communicating that you have a heady workload.
Yeah.
It can be useful for setting boundaries or asking for help
Right.
if you need it.
It's more impactful than just saying, I'm busy.
Way more.
Because it paints a picture.
Yeah, you're not just busy, you're drowning in work.
Exactly.
Yeah, and sometimes that visual image is what you need
That's it.
to get your point across.
For sure.
Now, as the workday or school day comes to a close,
Okay.
you might be ready to pack things up and say,
Yeah.
I need to wrap things up. The example is, I need to wrap things up.
This is a great way to signal to others that you're nearing the end of your current tasks
Yeah.
and preparing to transition to something else.
Right.
It's polite and professional,
Yeah,
and it avoids any awkwardness of just suddenly packing up and leaving.
absolutely. And if you're looking for a slightly more informal way to suggest a break,
Correct.
you could say, let's take a breather. The example given is, let's take a breather.
This is perfect for suggesting a short break to your colleagues or your classmates.
Yeah.
It's a way to encourage everyone to step away
Yeah.
from their work for a few minutes and come back refreshed.
Right.
I like how it's phrased as a suggestion, not a demand.
It's about creating a collaborative
Yeah.
and supportive environment.
For sure.
All right. Are you ready to move on to lunchtime and social interactions?
Absolutely. That's where things get a bit more relaxed and personal.
Yeah, I like it.
Me too.
Let's do it.
Okay. So let's get into some of those lunchtime phrases, that are all about connecting with people.
Yeah, I like it.
First up, we've got, what are you in the mood for?
Okay.
And they give the example, what are you in the mood for?
Such a versatile phrase.
It is.
You can use it when deciding where to eat,
Yeah.
what to cook,
Totally.
or even what movie to watch.
Oh, yeah.
It shows that you're considerate of the other person's preferences.
It's like saying, I want you to enjoy this too.
Exactly.
And if you're suggesting grabbing a meal together, you can say, let's grab a bite.
Okay.
Example, let's grab a bite.
Yeah, this is a casual and friendly way to propose getting food. It can be a quick snack or a full meal, depending on the context.
Right.
It's important to note, though, that it's more common in American English.
Oh, that's interesting. Would you say it's too informal for British English?
Not necessarily,
Okay.
but you might hear something like, let's get some grub.
Oh, yeah.
or fancy a bite to eat.
Okay.
Instead, it's fascinating how these subtle variations exist within the same language.
It's all about those regional differences.
Right.
Now, after a delicious meal, you can express your satisfaction with this next phrase that hit the spot.
I love that one.
The example is that hit the spot.
This phrase conveys a sense of contentment and satisfaction.
Right.
As if, your hunger has been perfectly satisfied.
Yeah.
It's informal, but it can be used in a variety of settings.
It's like saying, that was exactly what I needed.
Right.
It's so much more expressive than just saying, that was good.
For sure.
Okay, moving on to catching up with someone, we have what's new with you.
Oh, classic.
The example given is, what's new with you?
This is a classic conversation starter that invites the other person to share updates and news from their life.
Yeah.
It's a good way to show that you're genuinely interested in what they've been up to.
It's like an open invitation for them to tell their story.
Exactly.
I've found that people really appreciate it.
Yeah.
When you ask this question sincerely.
Oh, for sure.
It shows you value their experiences.
Absolutely. Active listening is so important in building strong relationships.
For sure.
Now let's transition back to the world of work.
Okay.
And tackle those afternoon phrases.
Sounds good to me. Let's conquer that afternoon slump.
Yeah.
First up, we have, let's brainstorm some ideas.
I like it.
The example is, let's brainstorm some ideas.
This is a fantastic phrase for encouraging creative problem solving and collaboration. It suggests an open and inclusive environment where everyone's ideas are welcome.
It's a much more dynamic approach than just saying, let's think of a solution.
Exactly.
Brainstorming implies energy and a willingness to think outside the box.
Right. It sets the stage for a productive and creative session.
Heavily.
And speaking of productivity, if you find yourself overwhelmed with work, remember you can always say, I'm swamped with work.
Oh, yeah?
The example provided is, I'm swamped with work.
We've talked about this one before.
Yeah.
But it's worth repeating because it's so useful.
So useful.
It's a clear and concise way to communicate that you have a lot on your plate.
And don't be afraid to use it strategically.
Oh, yeah.
If you're asked to take on another task, you can say, I'm swamped right now, but I might be able to help out later.
Exactly. It's all about setting boundaries and managing expectations.
For sure.
Now, as the day winds down and you're ready to head home, you can announce, let's call it a day. The example given is, let's call it a day.
This is a straightforward and widely used phrase to signal that you're finished working for the day.
Right.
You can use it in a variety of settings, from formal offices to casual workplaces.
It's like a collective sigh of relief.
Right.
Everyone's ready to pack up and go home.
Exactly. And it's a nice way to acknowledge that you've all put in a good effort.
Sure. All right, let's shift gears to those evening and night routine phrases. These are all about relaxing and winding down.
I like it.
First up, we have, what's for dinner?
Classic.
The example is, what's for dinner?
This might seem like a simple question,
Yeah.
but it's a great example of how everyday language can be both practical and social.
Oh, interesting.
It's a way to inquire about the meal plans while also initiating conversation about food preferences.
It's that casual, informal tone that makes it feel so natural.
Exactly.
It's like saying, I'm curious about what we're eating, but I'm also interested in what you're thinking about making.
Exactly. It's a way to connect with the people you live with.
Right.
Now, if you're looking to unwind after a long day, you could suggest, let's unwind.
Okay.
Their example is, let's unwind.
This phrase implies engaging in activities that promote relaxation.
Yes.
And enjoyment. It could be watching a movie, reading a book, listening to music, or simply spending quality time together.
Right. It's about creating a sense of calm and tranquility. It's a great alternative to just saying, let's relax.
Right.
Which can sound a bit passive.
Yeah, it's like you're actively choosing to unwind and de-stress.
Exactly.
But for those who prefer a more active form of relaxation, we have time to hit the gym.
Right.
The example given is time to hit the gym.
This phrase conveys a sense of commitment to fitness and well-being. It can be used as a motivational statement to yourself.
Right.
Or as an invitation to others to join you.
It's a great way to pump yourself up for a workout.
Yeah.
I like how it uses that active verb, hit, to create a sense of energy.
It's like you're not just going to the gym.
Right.
You're conquering it.
Exactly. And as the night progresses and you're ready for bed, you can say, I'm calling it a night. The example is, I'm calling it a night.
This is a classic way to announce that you're going to sleep.
Yeah.
It's simple, direct,
Yeah.
and universally understood.
It's a nice way to signal to others that you're winding down and preparing for rest.
Absolutely.
It's like saying, I'm done for the daytime to recharge for tomorrow.
Love it.
Wow, we have covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
We explored phrases for morning work, lunch, afternoon, and evening routines.
The whole day.
It's pretty much the whole day covered.
It's amazing how many different ways we can express ourselves,
I know, right?
in just one day, using these simple phrases.
And what's really cool is that these phrases can be adapted to different contexts and formality levels.
Absolutely. Like we talked about with, I could use a coffee.
Yeah.
You wouldn't use that at a formal dinner,
Right.
but it's perfect for a casual chat with colleagues.
Exactly.
The key is to be mindful of your audience
Yeah.
and the situation.
It's like having a toolbox full of different communication tools.
Yeah.
You choose the right tool for the job.
I like that analogy.
And remember, the more you use these phrases, the more natural they will become.
Practice is key.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to make mistakes.
Oh.
That's how we learn and improve.
Couldn't agree more now. Before we wrap up, I want to touch on 2 more phrases from your source material.
All right.
These are about reflecting on the day and looking ahead.
Okay.
So first we have, today was productive.
Nice.
They give the example, today was productive.
This phrase is great for expressing a sense of accomplishment and satisfaction. It's a way to acknowledge your own efforts and the positive outcomes of the day.
Totally.
It can also be a good conversation starter
Oh,
with colleagues or family.
it's like saying, I got a lot done today and I'm proud of myself.
Exactly.
It's a nice way to end the workday on a positive note.
And it can also set a positive tone
Yeah.
for the next day.
Speaking of the next day, the last phrase is, see you bright and early.
Oh, I like that one.
The example is, see you bright and early.
This phrase conveys a sense of anticipation for the next day.
Yeah.
While acknowledging the need for an early start,
Right.
it's often used when you're saying goodbye to someone you'll see soon.
It's like saying, I'm looking forward to seeing you tomorrow,
Yeah,
even though we have to get up early.
right.
It has that optimistic,
Yeah.
can-do attitude.
And it's a nice way to end a conversation on a positive and friendly note.
Well, there you have it. 22 essential phrases that will supercharge your everyday English.
That's right.
We've covered a lot of ground, from morning greetings to workday challenges,
Yeah.
to those relaxing evening moments.
It's been a journey.
It has, remember, the key is to practice, practice, practice.
That's it, and don't be afraid to experiment.
Totally.
Try using these phrases in different situations.
Yeah.
And with different people, the more you use them, the more confident you'll become.
Exactly. And if you ever have any doubts or questions, don't hesitate to reach out to a language partner or teacher for guidance.
For sure.
Language learning is a journey,
It is.
and we're all in this together.
And the best part is it's a journey that never really ends.
So true.
There's always something new to discover, a new nuance, to explore, a new way to express yourself.
That's what makes it so exciting.
Exactly.
So keep practicing, keep exploring, and keep having fun with it.
I love it.
That's a wrap on this deep dive. Until next time, keep those conversations flowing. Welcome to the Deep Dive. You wanted to explore everyday English phrases, and you sent us a beginner-level podcast script as a starting point.
Right.
We're going to use it to unearth some gems that you can use right away to start having real conversations in English.
Yeah, it's amazing how much you can do with just a handful of well-chosen phrases.
Yeah,
It's like having a conversational toolkit.
exactly. And what's cool about this script is it doesn't just give you the phrases, it shows you how they fit into daily routines.
Right.
So it's not just about what you say, but when you say it.
That's where the real magic of communication happens. It's about reading the situation
Right.
and using the right phrase at the right time.
Okay, so let's jump right in. The script starts with greetings,
Okay.
like good morning and how are you? Those seem pretty straightforward,
Yeah.
but I'm guessing there's more to them than meets the eye.
You're absolutely right. Take good morning, for example. In many English-speaking cultures, it's not just a polite acknowledgement. It's a genuine invitation to connect. The script even pairs it with, did you sleep well?
Oh,
Which, depending on where you are, could be a perfectly normal follow-up or might be considered a bit too personal for a casual encounter.
that's fascinating.
Yeah.
So even with a simple greeting, there are cultural nuances to be aware of. It's like a secret code.
Exactly. And that's why context is so important. The way you use these phrases can change depending on who you're talking to, where you are, even the time of day.
Okay, I'm starting to see how even basic phrases can have hidden depths. What about how are you? Is there more to that than just being polite?
There certainly is. While it can be a simple pleasantry, it can also be a genuine inquiry about someone's well-being.
Yeah.
And the way you respond can signal how open you are to further conversation.
Okay.
A quick, "I'm fine, thanks," might signal you want to keep things brief, while a more detailed response invites further interaction.
So it's all about reading the signals and responding accordingly, like a conversational dance.
Exactly. And this script gives us a great example of a response that keeps the conversation flowing.
Okay.
"I'm doing great, thanks. And you?"
Yeah.
Notice how it not only answers the question, but also turns it back to the other person, encouraging them to share as well.
It's like a conversational volley. I like that. It keeps the energy up.
Right.
So we've covered greetings, which are more complex than they first appear. What's next on our conversational adventure?
Well, the script takes us right into a classic scenario, mealtime. And the first phrase we encounter is, "What's for breakfast?" Now, this might seem like a simple question, but it actually opens up a whole world of possibilities.
Okay, I'm intrigued. How can a question about breakfast be so powerful?
Think about it. Food is a universal topic.
Yeah.
It's something everyone can relate to. Talking about food allows you to connect with people on a personal level, share cultural experiences, and even learn new things.
That's so true. I love trying new foods and hearing about other people's culinary traditions. It's a great way to break the ice and get to know someone.
Exactly. And the script doesn't just stop at breakfast. It goes on to include phrases like, "Can you pass the salt, please?"
Oh, yeah.
Which, while seemingly simple, are essential for navigating mealtime etiquette.
You know, it's funny you mention that. I once had an awkward experience where I forgot to say please when asking for something at the dinner table. Let me tell you, those two little letters make a big difference in how your request comes across.
They certainly do. Politeness goes a long way in any language. And using phrases like please and thank you shows respect and consideration. It's like adding a little social lubricant to your interactions.
I love that analogy. It's so true. Okay, so we've mastered greetings and mealtime etiquette. What's next on our agenda?
Well, the script then shifts gears to getting ready for the day, and we encounter the phrase, "I need to take a shower." Now, while this might seem like a very basic statement, it actually highlights an important grammatical structure: the present continuous tense.
Ooh, grammar. I'm all ears. Tell me more.
The present continuous tense is used to describe actions that are happening right now. In this case, the speaker is expressing their immediate need to shower.
Right.
The script highlights this tense again later with the phrase, "I'm running late," which emphasizes the urgency of the situation.
I see. So the tense you use can really change the emphasis of what you're saying.
Yeah.
I'll keep that in mind. But before we get too deep into grammar, I have a question. We've been focusing on individual phrases, but how do they all fit together in a real conversation?
That's a great question. And that's where the final practice dialogue in the script comes in. It shows you how all these phrases can be combined to create a natural flow of conversation. It's like watching a master chef put together a delicious meal using all the right ingredients in the right order.
Okay, that's a fantastic way to put it. We're building our conversational skills, phrase by phrase, and the final practice dialogue shows us how to put it all together. So in a way, we're like chefs, creating a delicious conversational feast. I love it. So far, we've tackled greetings, mealtime conversations, and getting ready for the day. Where does this linguistic journey take us next?
Well, next, our script takes us into the worlds of work and school, two settings where clear communication is absolutely key.
I could only imagine the kinds of mishaps that could happen if you're not able to express yourself clearly in those environments.
Oh, absolutely. And that's why the script provides us with some real gems for navigating these situations. For instance, it gives us the phrase, "Can I help you?" which is like a Swiss Army knife of communication in a work or school setting.
Okay, I'm seeing a lot of potential there. How so?
Think about it. You can use it when you genuinely want to assist someone who looks lost or confused, like a student struggling to find their classroom. Or you can use it in a professional setting to offer assistance to a colleague who seems overwhelmed.
Wow. I hadn't thought about the different ways that phrase could be used. It's all about adapting it to the context.
Exactly. And just as important as offering help is knowing when to ask for it. The script gives us the phrase, "I need a break." It seems straightforward, but it's so important to be able to communicate your needs, especially in demanding environments.
You know, I think a lot of people, especially those new to a language, might feel hesitant to express their needs so directly. It's like they don't want to seem demanding or incapable.
That's a really important point. Cultural backgrounds can play a huge role in how comfortable people are with expressing their needs. But being able to say, I need a break or I need help is essential for self-care and setting boundaries.
Absolutely. It's about advocating for yourself.
Yeah.
And hopefully the people around you will respond with understanding and support. Speaking of needs, the script then brings up another important one. What time is lunch?
Yes. The question that keeps us all going, but it's more than just a way to satisfy our hunger.
Right.
It's also a way to inquire about schedules and routines in a polite and indirect way.
So instead of directly asking someone about their schedule, you can use a question like, what time is lunch? To subtly gather information. It's like conversational detective work.
Precisely. And it's a strategy that can be applied in many situations, not just when you're hungry. For example, instead of directly asking, when does the meeting start? You could ask, what time do you usually break for coffee?
That's brilliant. I'm starting to see how these seemingly simple phrases can be used in really strategic ways. It's like a whole new level of communication. So we've covered offering help, asking for help, and even subtly gathering information. Where does the script take us next?
Well, after a long day of work or school, the script guides us into the evening with the suggestion, let's watch a movie.
Finally, some relaxation. But I bet there's more to this than just picking a film, right?
You know me too well. On the surface, it's a simple invitation to relax and enjoy some entertainment.
Right.
But it also reflects how we use language to build relationships and create shared experiences.
It's like a bonding ritual, gathering with friends or family, dimming the lights and getting lost in a story together. It creates a sense of connection.
Exactly. And notice how the script pairs this invitation with another classic, What's for Dinner?
Oh, yeah.
It highlights how food continues to play a central role in our daily interactions, even beyond meal times.
Food really is a universal language, isn't it? It brings people together and sparks conversations. You know, I remember when I first started learning English, one of the first things I wanted to be able to do was order food at a restaurant. It felt like a real accomplishment.
That's a great example of how mastering even basic phrases can give you a sense of confidence and independence in a new language. It allows you to participate in everyday activities and connect with people on a more meaningful level.
So true. Small victories lead to bigger ones. But even with all the excitement of movies and dinner, eventually exhaustion sets in. And the script acknowledges this with the phrase, I'm so tired.
Ah, yes. The universal sigh of relief at the end of a long day. But even this simple statement holds a deeper meaning. It reflects our shared human experience of fatigue and the need for rest.
It's like an unspoken understanding that we all go through these cycles of activity and rest. And being able to express that feeling of tiredness in any language is a way of connecting with others on a very primal level.
Absolutely. And it often serves as a signal that it's time to wind down and prepare for sleep. The script then gives us time to go to bed, which is more than just a statement.
Oh, yeah.
It's a reminder to prioritize our well-being and recharge for the day ahead.
It's like a gentle nudge towards self-care, which I think we all need sometimes, especially in today's fast-paced world.
Couldn't agree more. And as we drift off to sleep, the script leaves us with a heartwarming sentiment. Sweet dreams.
Oh, I love that. It's such a simple phrase, but it carries so much warmth and affection. It's a reminder that even in our sleep, we're connected to the people we care about.
It's a beautiful way to end the day, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. So far, we've explored a full day's worth of phrases, from greetings to bedtime rituals. What else does this script have in store for us as we wrap up our deep dive?
Well, the script starts the final section on a really positive note with, today was a good day.
I like that. It's like a little celebration of all the small wins and positive moments that make up a day.
Exactly. It encourages us to practice gratitude and focus on the good, which can be really powerful, especially when learning a new language. It's easy to get caught up in mistakes and frustrations, but taking a moment to acknowledge the progress you've made can be really motivating.
Yeah, it's like giving yourself a little pat on the back for all the effort you're putting in. And it sets a nice tone for the next phrase. See you tomorrow.
Ah, yes, the classic farewell. It might seem simple, but it actually reinforces the idea of connection and continuity. It signals that while our conversation is ending for now, we anticipate future interactions.
Yeah, it's like saying, this isn't goodbye, it's just see you later. It keeps the door open for future conversations and collaborations.
Precisely. And to make sure those future interactions happen on time, the script gives us a crucial reminder. Don't forget to set your alarm.
Huh. Spoken like someone who's definitely experienced the panic of oversleeping.
Oh, I'll admit, I've had my fair share of close calls. But this phrase is more than just a practical reminder. It also highlights the importance of taking responsibility for our own schedules and commitments.
It's like saying, I'm reliable, I'm organized, I've got this. Which is a great message to send in any language.
Absolutely. And it ties back to the idea of self-advocacy that we discussed earlier. Being able to manage your time and communicate your needs effectively are essential skills, both in language learning and in life.
So true. It's all connected. Looking back at this whole script, I'm really impressed by how it weaves together so many seemingly simple phrases into a cohesive narrative.
Me too. The final practice dialogue really brings it all together. It's one thing to learn individual phrases, but it's quite another to see how they can be combined into a natural-sounding conversation.
It's like we've been given all the ingredients, and now we can start experimenting and creating our own conversational dishes.
Exactly. And the beauty of it is that you can take these basic phrases and adapt them to fit your own personality and style. You can add humor, express your unique perspectives, and really make the language your own.
So, to wrap things up, we've gone on quite a journey with this beginner-level podcast script. We've explored how seemingly simple phrases can hold hidden depths, reflect cultural nuances, and be used strategically in different situations.
We've seen how these phrases can be used to build relationships, express needs, navigate daily routines, and even celebrate small victories. It's amazing how much you can accomplish with just a handful of well-chosen words.
It really is. If you're listening and you're just starting out with English, I encourage you to start using these phrases right away. Don't be afraid to experiment, make mistakes, and have fun with it.
And remember, language learning is a journey, not a destination. The more you practice, the more confident and fluent you'll become. So what kind of conversations about your daily routine can you imagine having in English?
That's a great question to ponder. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time for another exciting exploration of language and communication.